Happy Fragrance Day. I am so happy to be here today to speak about the Monell Science Apprenticeship Program on career paths. And I'm really excited as well to have Chris Collins, who will be joining me today to speak with Joshua and Teresa, who are apprentices from the Monell Center Summer Internship Program. So great to see you. So glad you're here today. And I am just so happy because last summer I had the opportunity to meet both of you during your summer internship at Monell to talk about my career, and then as well to have the opportunity to see you all present your final projects, projects. So I thought it would be wonderful to have Chris speak as well because he is a graduate of the University of Maine in biology, and he has his own fragrance brand, The World of Chris Collins. So I'm going to just start off by asking you all to walk us through your projects. Joshua, walk us through your project from last summer.
So my project last summer was us mixing together two different smells and having human participants come in and rate their smell intensity. This is important because we want to digitalize odors the same way that we digitalize colors. So if we take red, blue, and yellow, or we take red, green, and blue, we can mix them up to have different values that we can put into a computer and create a color space of that. We want to do the same thing for smell. This has a lot of applications like applying smells to movie theaters and advancing work in COVID-19.
Thank you, Joshua. That's incredible. Wow. So I'm going to now turn it over to Teresa. Teresa, walk us through your summer project.
Hi, yes. Well, as you heard from Sharné, my name is Teresa, and I'm currently a senior at Friends Central School, and I'll be attending the University of Pennsylvania in the fall. And basically, for my summer project, I worked under Joel Mainland and Emily Mayhew. And the goal of our project was to use what we call neural network model to try to figure out whether structurally similar or the structurally dissimilar molecules will smell more alike. So basically, in science, typically you will identify molecules with similar structures to be more similar. Well, in my project, we were trying to disprove this fact. So we were trying to prove that the structurally dissimilar molecules or odors were, in fact, smelt more alike in comparison to the structurally similar odors. So that's pretty much the overview of my project.
Wow. Wow, that's great. Wow.
Yes.
So next question, Chris.
I'm thoroughly impressed by you two incredible young people. You're way ahead of where I was back in the years where I studied science. But I do have a couple of questions for both of you, Joshua and Teresa. So you both received a very unique introduction to the sense of smell last summer. So how do you think this will influence your career moving forward? So Joshua, you can answer first.
So for a long time, I've been strictly pre-med. I come from a long line of nurses, not a doctor yet though. So eventually my goal is to become a doctor, but attending Monell really exposed me to the more research-based side of things. It really showed me the life of a researcher, whether it's lab meetings or simply working on the computer, crunching data. It was a really nice environment. And at the base of it, it was just curiosity, which is something that I really am driven by, just following something you're passionate about.
Right.
In the future, I hope to combine medicine and research. Monell's really influenced me to try to go down that path. I'm thinking of taking my bioengineering degree from Lehigh, hopefully in the future, and mixing it with some research to maybe even go for like an MD, PhD sort of thing.
Incredible.
Yeah.
How about you, Teresa?
All right. So, well, I've already been interested in senses growing up because I have a brain disease called hydrocephalus, and that caused me to be partially deaf. So I can't hear in my left ear, and I'm half deaf in my right. So I've always been interested in senses, but I just never really knew what I wanted to do. So going to Monell, it really showed me that I was really interested in research, and it showed me how I could apply research to better one's senses in a way. So I hope to become a neurologist, but I want to conduct research to see how we can research these like cerebrospinal fluid disorders and their effects on how they can change your senses.
That's incredible. So quickly, when I was in university, I was pre-med as well. And I didn't know if I wanted to be a doctor or not, but, it's funny how, your paths and your lives are kind of go a different way than what you think that they will end up. And I've always been in love with fragrance, always been in love with colognes, perfumes, all my life. And it wasn't until I entered into the perfume or the fragrance world that I realized that there's a very scientific based part of it, because perfumers are chemists, right? So there's a very molecular kind of scientific basis to fragrance, but there's also something very behavioral. So I was able to use my degrees to help me in developing certain fragrances. There's synthetic, in some fragrances, synthetic smells or notes, and then there's some natural, and then, the behavioral people, whether, it changes your mood. I don't know if you ever heard of olfactive synesthesia, where there's this retrieval of memory through fragrance. So I just want to say I am thoroughly proud of both of you, because you're right where I was when I was in university, and both of your futures in fragrance are very bright. So congratulations to both of you.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So from studying biology as a pre-med student to even being like the face of Polo Ralph Lauren fragrances, like how was that transition going from pre-med to fragrance? Like, could you kind of clarify more on that, please?
Well, when I was pre-med, because biology is the study of living organisms, right? That never kind of went away, but I did take some time off from university. Well, from what I thought was going to be a small amount of time away from school, because I started working with Ralph Lauren. And when I took that time off, that the education never left. I applied all that to everything that I did, the behavior, and just the basis of the living organisms and from biology. So when I entered into the fragrance world, that's when I kind of grabbed all that information back and used that in my development. And all of my fragrances tell a story. All of my fragrances are very, kind of intricate notes put together to induce emotions. Everything in fragrance is emotional. Yes, it is very scientific, but it's also very emotional. So there's a connection. So the times that I worked at Ralph Lauren, I didn't know that I would be here at this point, but thank goodness I ended up at this point, because I was able to use all that information to my benefit, to maybe some perfume brand owners who may have not had that, kind of scientific knowledge like you two do. So make sure you take that with you through your journey through fragrance, because it is very important and very advantageous as well.
Incredible, right, Chris?
Incredible.
They're just amazing, amazing. So I'm gonna ask the next question. I'm just so proud of you both. My next question is, I'm gonna start with Reese this time. After studying the science of smell, do you have any insights into how we use our noses to guide us through our daily lives?
I feel like now, after studying olfaction, since I spent most of my time smelling through this lexicon, which was a bunch of different things that's of different smells, so grassy smells and et cetera, I realized wherever we go, people you usually think of that you use your eyes to identify where you are or your surroundings, but it really showed me that you really use your nose most of the time. Because when you walk somewhere, if you like smell the air, you know where you are. Like a lot of people, when you walk in your basement, you say, "Oh, it smells like basement." Your basement has this particular smell. So it really showed me that you also use your nose to identify your environment. Like, oh, this is what's happening. Like if you smell food, oh, somebody's cooking. So it's just like you use your nose to identify where you are.
You do.
Teresa, that's so intuitive because you do smell before you see. I mean, you could smell something miles away where you can't even see what's happening, kind of inducing your fight or flight mechanism, right? Mm-hmm. So, you can smell smoke, there's a problem, or there could be a problem. Mm-hmm. Or if you smell something like, gardenia or, fruit or something is more, kind of more inviting. So that sense of smell is very important. And then also for you, because of your condition, smell is very important. And I'm sure that your sense of smell is very heightened. So that's very intuitive on your part.
Very much so. And Joshua, would you like to answer that question? And the question is, after studying the science of smell, do you have any insights on how to use your nose to guide you through daily life?
So after studying olfaction, and I like what Teresa said as well, like we were also lab partners in a way. So we were smelling a lot of the same smells. It just made me a lot more aware and a lot more mindful. And I also realized, and I tell people this all the time, we don't pay attention to our sense of smell until we've lost it or until there's some deficit in it. So it just makes me a lot more aware, whether that's going to the mall and spending a few minutes at Bath and Body Works, or even like getting a favorite cologne from like my older brother, hopefully maybe a Mr. Collins cologne in the future for my dad or something. It just makes me a lot more appreciative and not take it for granted, quite honestly. I'm also interested in a lot of the medical applications of fragrance and just olfaction in general. So hopefully in the future, when I dive deeper into research, I can get some more exposure to that side as well.
Yeah, it's great. And I know Chris has a question, and not only is it a Chris question, but I think the whole fragrance community wants to get some of your insights. Am I right, Chris? On what you think? And go ahead, Chris.
So what would you like to share with the fragrance community about you or your generation and how you interact with fragrances? Because that's very important, because the way you see fragrance, the way your generation sees fragrance will kind of dictate going forward how the world sees fragrance. So, Teresa, you want to tackle that question?
Yeah, I feel like in my generation, I feel like fragrance is a particular like big thing for girls in comparison to men. But I know like in older generations, a lot of men wear colognes, oils, stuff like that. But I feel like in our generation, it's kind of like eased down on like not eased down, but fragrance isn't as big of a thing with the men. But meanwhile, for like us girls, we like, I would say a lot of women now prefer like fruity smells, like and like flowery scents. Like me, I love me a fruity scent. But like I would say like for the men, when I'm around my friends, I don't like my male friends. I really don't see them like wearing a little cologne, or even like when going out to events, I don't smell any of my friends wearing any cologne or anything. They kind of just like smell like laundry.
Right.
But yeah, so I would say it's still like a big thing with the women, although I would say nowadays, like men really aren't into cologne as they like used to be.
Right. Well, I mean, that's very important, your outlook on it, because, and fragrance, I don't tend to categorize my fragrances either men or women, because I think fragrance is for everyone. Everyone is everyone, right? But there's this, in order for, I guess, for marketing purposes, to categorize fragrance as feminine or masculine, the only note that basically kind of categorizes the feminine kind of category in perfume is the floral note, right? So, but I think, women, my fragrances tend to lean a little bit more masculine because, they're woodsy and they're boozy, but there's a lot of women that love my fragrance. So I don't think there's any more rules anymore. I think you wear what you love, you wear what you like. And the other point that you made is the fragrance is everywhere. It's in things that you don't even realize. They're in your dish detergent. It's in your food. It's everywhere. So, so kudos to you because you've realized that it's everywhere and it's important for us to kind of recognize that. So I just wanted to let you know that there are no rules. You can wear whatever you want.
Thank you.
So Joshua, I wanted to ask you a question. So what would you like to share with the fragrance community about you or your generation and how you interact with fragrances? Because your interaction, the young people's interaction and idea around fragrance is very important for us as brand owners and perfumers and anyone in the fragrance space going forward.
I would say for my generation, we put a lot of emphasis on self-expression. The things that we wear, or even the things that we put on for people to smell, we try to have it as characteristic of us as we can. So I'd say a fragrance that makes someone feel like themselves, a fragrance that emits like their personality and their character is something that they really want. For me, I've been moving towards like some bolder fragrances because I've been wanting to sort of redefine myself, redirect myself towards a focused version of myself, but also someone who's connected to other people. So for that, I choose something more bold, something more that's going to make me proud and want to stand out. So I'd say for my generation, it's definitely about self-expression, stuff that makes their individuality show, which is most important.
Josh, I got to tell you, that answer was exactly what drew me to fragrance when I was like 12 years old, because it started to help me kind of develop an identity. It gave me confidence. Like I tell people all the time, like I don't create fragrance. I create like confidence. I create, this identity, and through fragrance, you can develop that, right? It made me feel more confident to smell good because, it made me, noticed, and people were complimentary, and, all those things that, we think we don't really care about, but it matters, right? And it helps. And for me, it was always more important to smell good than to dress well. And not saying, I didn't care what I put on, but that to me was, oh my God, Chris, you smell so good. That made my day, right? And then I started to realize how it affected my mood. So for you and your generation to already recognize that, you're miles ahead of where you should be. And, that basically tells us fragrance creators that the future is bright, in perfume, because we have two incredible individuals like you and Teresa in it, and we're going to carry the torch forward. So
thank you, Mr. Collins.
Yeah, I totally agree. Thank you so much, Reese and Joshua, for being with us today. I am like overwhelmed when I first met you all this summer, and to be connected with you again. You know what that means? I'm going to be following you, and you are rock stars. Can't wait to see. And as Chris just said, our future is so bright because we have scientists like you that are on the horizon.
That's right.
Thank you. And happy Fragrance Day.
Happy Fragrance Day. Happy Fragrance Day to everyone.